A good daughter knows her place. Those were the exact words I heard my father say through his office door, moments before he called me in to destroy my life. I stood there frozen, hand hovering over the doorknob, as he continued speaking to someone on the phone about my upcoming arranged marriage. A marriage I hadn't even been informed about yet. I'm Fiona, and until that moment, I thought I knew what rock bottom felt like. I was wrong. Come in. My father's voice boomed through the heavy oak door. I entered his study, the familiar scent of expensive cigars and leather filling my nostrils. He sat behind his massive desk, a cruel smile playing on his lips as he gestured for me to sit. Darling, we need to discuss your future. He folded his hands on the desk, the gold rings on his fingers catching the afternoon light. I've arranged a marriage between you and Carlos, Roy's son. The wedding will be in 3 months. The world tilted sideways. I'm sorry, what? Don't act surprised. You're 24, and it's time you contributed to this family's success. He reached for his crystal whiskey glass. The Kellys are a powerful family. This union will secure our position in the industry. Dad, I have a career. I'm a software engineer. Remember, the job you said was just a phase? He waved his hand dismissively. A wife doesn't need a career. Carlos will provide for you. I've never even met Carlos. My voice cracked. You can't just, I can, and I have. His tone shifted, becoming steel-edged. The contracts are being drawn up as we speak. This isn't a discussion, Fiona. It's happening. I gripped the armrests of my chair, my knuckles turning white. Why now? Why the rush? Something flickered across his face. Worry, perhaps. Before his mask of authority returned. The timing is right. That's all you need to know. But I knew better. I'd seen the signs for months. The hushed phone calls, the late-night meetings, the way he'd been liquidating assets. My father, the great Trevor Romero, was in trouble. Is this about money? I asked quietly. He slammed his hand on the desk. This is about securing your future, about doing what's best for this family. You mean what's best for you? His eyes narrowed. Watch yourself, young lady. I've given you everything. Private schools, university education, that ridiculous coding hobby. Now it's time to repay that investment. Investment. That's all I was to him. A commodity to be traded. The Kellys are coming for dinner tomorrow night, he continued, his tone softening artificially. Wear something appropriate, and for God's sake, don't mention your career. No man wants a wife who thinks she's smarter than him. I stood up, my legs shaking. Is that what Mom thought? Is that why she left? The color drained from his face. Get out. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me at the door. And Fiona, remember who pays your bills, who owns your car, your apartment. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. I closed the door quietly behind me and walked to my car on autopilot. Once inside, I pulled out my phone and dialed the one person I knew would understand. Zariah, I need your help. My voice was steady now, cold, with determination. Remember those documents we found in Dad's office last Christmas? I think it's time we took a closer look. What happened? My best friend and law school graduate asked, concern evident in her voice. He's trying to sell me off to save his empire. I started the car. But he doesn't know what I know about his business dealings, about the offshore accounts, the fake companies. Fiona, that's dangerous territory. If what we suspected is true, it is, and I'm done being his puppet. I pulled out of the driveway, watching my father's figure appear at his office window. He thinks he's arranging my marriage. Fine. But he's about to learn that karma has a way of coming back around. What are you planning? I smiled, thinking of the USB drive hidden in my apartment. The one containing years of evidence I'd been quietly collecting. Let's just say dear old Dad is about to discover that his obedient daughter learned more from him than he thought. Only difference is, I'm going to do it legally. I'm in, Zariah said without hesitation. Where should we meet? The usual place. 1 hour. I ended the call and accelerated onto the highway, my mind already racing with plans. My father always said a woman's greatest weapon was her smile. He forgot that sometimes, behind that smile, there's a mind sharp enough to bring down an empire. The Kellys' black Mercedes pulled into our circular driveway exactly at 7. I watched from my bedroom window, adjusting the conservative blue dress my father had insisted I wear. Time to play my part. Remember, I muttered to myself. Smile and nod. I descended the grand staircase just as our housekeeper opened the front door. Roy entered first, tall, imposing, with the same predatory smile as my father. Behind him came an elegant woman who had to be Cecilia, Carlos's mother. And then, Carlos wasn't what I expected. He wore wire-rimmed glasses and looked almost as uncomfortable as I felt. When our eyes met, he gave me a slight, awkward nod. Fiona, my father's voice boomed across the foyer. Come meet your future family. I forced my brightest smile and approached the group. It's wonderful to meet you all. Roy grabbed my hand, his grip too tight. The pictures don't do you justice, my dear. Carlos is a lucky man. I felt Carlos shift uncomfortably beside his father. Dinner was excruciating. The men dominated the conversation, discussing business deals and golf scores, while Cecilia watched everything with sharp eyes. I picked at my food, playing the role of the demure daughter. So Fiona, Cecilia spoke suddenly, her voice cutting through the men's laughter. Carlos tells me you graduated from Stanford. My father's fork clattered against his plate. Oh, that was just to keep her occupied until marriage. Right, sweetheart? I caught the flash of disapproval in Cecilia's eyes. Interesting. Actually, Carlos spoke up. I'd love to hear about your studies, Fiona. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Zariah. Found something big. Check your email now. Excuse me, I smiled apologetically. Ladies' room. In the bathroom, I quickly opened my email. Zariah had sent a scan of a contract, one bearing both my father's and Roy's signatures. My hands started shaking as I read. The marriage wasn't just about business collaboration. It was about debt, massive debt. My father had borrowed millions from Roy, using company assets as collateral. Assets that, according to Zariah's notes, didn't actually exist. I splashed water on my face and returned to dinner, my mind racing. Back at the table, Carlos was being pressured to tell the story of his proposal. Well, he stammered, I haven't actually. It was perfect, I interrupted, placing my hand over his. Very romantic. Carlos looked at me with surprise, but played along. Under the table, I slipped him a note. We need to talk, alone. After dessert, I suggested showing Carlos the garden. Our fathers exchanged knowing looks that made my skin crawl. Once outside, Carlos immediately dropped my hand. I'm sorry about all this, he said quietly. I tried to tell my father I wasn't interested in an arranged marriage, but he wouldn't listen, I finished. Yeah, I know the feeling. We walked in silence for a moment. Do you know why they're really doing this? I asked. My father says it's about merging our family's interests. He shrugged. But something feels off. I stopped walking. What if I told you both our fathers are lying to us? Carlos adjusted his glasses. I'd say I'm not surprised, but I'd want proof. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Zariah. Roy's company financials show irregular patterns, same shell corporations as your father's. They're both in on it. I can get you proof, I said carefully. But I need to know if you're willing to stand up to your father. He was quiet for a long moment. They think we're out here getting to know each other as future spouses. Instead, we're plotting against them. Is that a yes? A small smile crossed his face. Let's just say I have my own reasons for wanting the truth exposed. Back inside, our fathers were celebrating with expensive scotch. My father raised his glass. To the happy couple. I smiled and raised my water glass, thinking of the USB drive in my purse and the growing stack of evidence Zariah was collecting. Let them celebrate. They had no idea what was coming. Later that night, I called Zariah from my car. Carlos might be an ally, I told her, but we need more concrete evidence before I can trust him completely. About that, Zariah's voice was excited. I found something in the merger documents. Your father isn't just using this marriage to cover his debts. He's planning to transfer all his assets to Roy's company before the wedding, including your trust fund. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. He's going to leave me with nothing. Unless we stop him. We will, I said firmly. But first, I need you to dig deeper into Roy's company. Something tells me Carlos isn't the only one being kept in the dark. As I hung up, my father's words from yesterday echoed in my head. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Sorry, Dad. But some hands deserve to be bitten. I didn't expect to find Cecilia Kelly waiting for me at my favorite coffee shop the next morning. She sat at a corner table, stirring her latte with practiced elegance, looking completely out of place among the college students and remote workers. Sit, she said when I approached. We need to talk. I slid into the chair across from her, clutching my own coffee like a shield. How did you know I'd be here? I have my ways. She pushed a manila envelope across the table. Just like you have yours. My heart stopped. Inside the envelope were copies of emails I'd sent to Zariah, discussing my father's suspicious business dealings. Are you here to threaten me? I kept my voice steady. Cecilia laughed softly. Quite the opposite. She leaned forward. I've been watching your father and my husband for months. They're not as clever as they think they are. What do you mean? 25 years ago, I was you. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped the table. Young, ambitious, forced into a marriage to save my family's reputation. I thought I could change Roy from the inside. She smiled bitterly. Instead, I watched him become exactly like your father. My phone buzzed, a text from my younger brother, Quentin. Dad's looking for you. He's mad. I ignored it. Why are you telling me this? Because you're smarter than I was. Cecilia pulled out another document. This is a copy of the real marriage contract, not the version they showed you. Read page 6 carefully. I scanned the document, my coffee growing cold. They're planning to transfer all assets to an offshore account after the wedding, including your mother's inheritance. Cecilia's eyes hardened. The one your father claimed was lost years ago. The bell above the coffee shop door chimed. Carlos walked in, looking surprised to see us together. Mother, what are you doing here? Having a fascinating conversation with your bride-to-be. Cecilia stood, gathering her designer bag. Remember what I said, Fiona. Some things are worth fighting for. After she left, Carlos took her seat. What was that about? Your mother just gave us the smoking gun. I showed him the contract. Look familiar? His face darkened as he read. This is my father's signature, but I've never seen this version. The one he showed me was completely different. My phone buzzed again. Quentin. Seriously, sis. Dad's threatening to cut off your credit cards. Let me guess, Carlos said, noticing my expression. Family drama. My brother. He's still loyal to our father. I texted back. Let him. I don't need his money. Must be nice having siblings. Carlos handed back the contract. All I had growing up was my father's expectations. And your mother? She protected me as much as she could. But lately, he trailed off, adjusting his glasses. She's been different, more defiant. My phone rang. Zariah. Turn on the business news, she said without greeting. Now, Carlos and I huddled over my phone, watching as the news anchor reported on suspicious trading patterns linked to both our father's companies. The stock was already dropping. They're going to panic, Carlos said. Try to move everything offshore before anyone can investigate. That's exactly what we want. I forwarded Cecilia's documents to Zariah. The more desperate they get, the more mistakes they'll make. My phone buzzed one final time. My father, come home immediately. We need to discuss your behavior. I have to go. I stood up. My father's summoning me for another lecture about duty and family. Carlos caught my arm. Be careful. When my father feels threatened, he gets dangerous. So does mine. I managed to smile. But I learned from the best. I found my father in his study, face red with anger. "Where have you been?" Roy called. Said Cecilia, "Saw you plotting with Carlos at some cheap coffee shop. We were getting to know each other. Isn't that what you wanted? Don't play games with me." He slammed his hand on the desk. "I raised you better than this. Did you? Or did you just raise me to be another asset you could trade away?" His expression turned calculating. "You've been talking to your mother, haven't you? Has she been filling your head with lies?" "I haven't spoken to Mom in years. You made sure of that. Everything I did was for this family." "No," I said quietly. "Everything you did was for yourself." I turned to leave, but his words stopped me cold. "If you ruin this marriage arrangement, you'll regret it. Some secrets should stay buried." I looked back at him, seeing not the powerful man who had terrorized my childhood, but a desperate one trying to hold on to control. "Careful, Dad. You're not the only one who knows how to keep secrets." As I walked out, I texted Zariah. Time to move to phase 2 and find my mother. The game was changing. My father thought he was protecting his empire, but he'd forgotten one crucial detail. Empires can fall in a single day. "Your mother is in Singapore," Zariah announced, dropping a stack of papers on her desk, "and you're not going to believe what she's been doing." I picked up the top document, a business registration for a tech startup. My mother's signature was at the bottom, dated 3 years ago. "She's been building her own company?" I stared at the financial statements. "How did we not know about this?" "Because she's smart." Zariah pulled up more documents on her laptop. She used her maiden name, created a completely separate identity. But here's the interesting part. Her company just acquired a significant stake in one of your father's major competitors. My phone lit up with a text from Carlos. "Emergency. Father calling board meeting. Something about irregularities in the accounts." "It's starting," I smiled. "The anonymous tip we sent to the SEC is working." Zariah's office door burst open. My brother Quentin stormed in, his face flushed with anger. "What did you do?" he demanded. "Dad's going crazy. He says someone's been accessing confidential company files." "Sit down, Quentin." I kept my voice calm. "There's something you need to see." "No, you need to stop whatever you're doing." He ran his hands through his hair. "Dad says we could lose everything." "We already have nothing." I shoved the documents toward him. "Look at these. Really look. Dad's been stealing from us for years. From you, from me, from Mom." Quentin's hands shook as he read. "These offshore accounts, these transfer dates. This can't be right." "It is." Zariah pulled up more records. "Your father has been systematically draining company assets, hiding them in shell corporations. The marriage to Carlos is just his latest cover-up." My phone buzzed again, this time from Cecilia. "Roy just left for emergency meeting. Took his private files with him. Office empty." I showed the message to Zariah. She nodded. "Quentin," I said softly, "I need your help. Dad keeps his backup files in the home office safe. You know the combination." "You want me to steal from our father?" His voice cracked. "I want you to help me save what's left of our family." He stared at the documents for a long moment. "If I do this, what happens to Dad?" "He faces the consequences of his actions, like he always taught us we should." Quentin pulled out his phone, typed something, then showed it to me. "The safe combination." "I don't want to know anything else," he said, standing. "Just promise you won't let him go to prison." After he left, Zariah and I moved quickly. While she coordinated with our contact at the SEC, I drove to my father's house. The security code hadn't changed since I was 16. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside, I found exactly what we needed: original contracts, bank statements, and a USB drive labeled contingency. My phone rang. "Carlos, meeting's over," he said, sounding shaken. "Your father just accused mine of embezzlement. It's getting ugly. Are you okay?" "Yeah, just..." He paused. I never wanted to believe my father could do something like this, but the evidence... "I know, I'm sorry." "Don't be. We're doing the right thing." He lowered his voice. "They're calling in their lawyers. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. Back at Zariah's office, we reviewed the files from the safe. The USB drive contained everything: proof of fraud, money laundering, and something else. Look at this. Zariah pointed to her screen. Emails between your father and Roy from 15 years ago. They were planning this even then. The companies, the marriage. It was all arranged before you even finished high school. My phone lit up. My father, where are you? He demanded. The engagement party is in 2 hours. Right. The party. The perfect opportunity to expose everything. I'll be there, I promised. Wouldn't miss it for the world. After hanging up, I turned to Zariah. Did you reach my mother? She nodded. She's landing tomorrow morning. Says she has her own surprise for your father. I gathered the documents into my briefcase. Send everything to the SEC contact and call Carlos. Make sure he's ready for tonight. Are you sure about this? Zariah asked. Once we do this, there's no going back. I thought about my father's threats, about Quentin's fear, about my mother's secret success. For 15 years, they planned to use me as a pawn in their game. I checked my phone. Dozens of missed calls from my father. Tonight, we changed the rules. As I left Zariah's office, I received one final text from Cecilia. Whatever happens tonight, remember, you're stronger than I was at your age. Don't let them win. I straightened my shoulders and headed home to prepare for the party. My father wanted a perfect engagement celebration to show off to his business associates. Instead, he was going to get the performance of a lifetime. The engagement party transformed our house into a glittering showcase of wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above crowds of business executives and socialites, all pretending they weren't discussing the morning's stock market rumors. There's my beautiful daughter. My father's grip on my arm was tight as he paraded me around. Doesn't she look perfect for Carlos? I smiled and nodded, playing my part while watching the door. Carlos and his parents hadn't arrived yet. Fiona, my brother, appeared at my elbow, face pale. Dad's private investigator is here. My heart skipped. The one who followed Mom. Quentin nodded slightly. He's asking questions about your recent meetings. Before I could respond, a murmur went through the crowd. Carlos and his parents had arrived. Cecilia caught my eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Showtime, I whispered. My father clinked his glass, gathering everyone's attention. Friends, family, esteemed colleagues. Tonight we celebrate not just love, but the joining of two great families. My phone buzzed. Zariah, SEC agents in position, news vans outside. And so, my father continued, I'd like to propose a toast to my daughter and her future husband. The crowd raised their glasses. I stepped forward. Actually, Dad, I'd like to say something. His smile froze. Perhaps later, sweetheart. No. I moved to the center of the room. I think everyone here deserves to know the truth about this marriage, about why it's really happening. Roy stepped forward, his face darkening. Young lady, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time. Carlos appeared beside me, holding a tablet. Show them, Fiona. I pulled out my phone and pressed send. Suddenly, every screen in the room, the mounted TVs, guests' phones, even the digital photo frames, displayed the same documents. Ladies and gentlemen, I projected my voice across the stunned crowd. What you're seeing are bank statements, contracts, and emails proving years of systematic fraud orchestrated by Trevor Romero and Roy Kelly. Security, my father bellowed. Remove her. The security team already has copies of everything, Carlos announced. So do the SEC and major news outlets. The crowd erupted in whispers. I spotted several guests already calling their brokers. You ungrateful little, my father lunged forward, but Quentin stepped between us. Don't, my brother warned. It's over, Dad. This marriage was never about love, I continued. It was about hiding millions in stolen money before the authorities could trace it. About using me to create a legitimate reason for merging companies that are about to collapse. Roy laughed nervously. These are ridiculous accusations. Are they? Cecilia's voice cut through the chaos. She stood on the stairs, elegant and fierce. Tell them about the offshore accounts, Roy. About the shell companies. About how you plan to strip both companies bare and leave our children with nothing. The front doors burst open. SEC agents and police officers streamed in, followed by news crews. Trevor Romero, Roy Kelly? An agent held up a badge. We have some questions about your financial dealings. My father's face had turned ashen. Fiona, please. Everything I did was for you. No. A familiar voice rang out. Everything you did was for yourself. The crowd parted. My mother stood in the doorway, looking exactly as I remembered her, but stronger, confident. Hello, Trevor, she smiled. Miss me, Margaret. My father stumbled backward. You're supposed to be broken, bankrupt. Thanks to the money you didn't manage to steal from me, I built something of my own, something honest. The next few minutes were chaos. Police reading rights, reporters shouting questions, guests fleeing to their cars to call their stockbrokers. You've ruined everything, my father spat as officers led him past me. You're no daughter of mine. You're right. I held his gaze. I'm my mother's daughter. Later, as the house emptied, Carlos found me in the garden. Well, he said, sitting beside me, that wasn't the engagement party I expected. I laughed despite everything. Sorry to disappoint. Are you kidding? This was way better than another boring society wedding. He smiled. Though I guess we should probably call off the engagement. Probably for the best. I looked at him. Friends? Friends. He nodded. Besides, I think I'd rather have you as a business ally than a wife. My phone buzzed one last time. Zariah, turn on the news. Your father and Roy's arrest is everywhere. Also, your mom wants to meet for breakfast tomorrow. Says she has a job offer for you. I showed the message to Carlos. Looks like we both have fresh starts ahead of us. Thanks to you, he said. You know, our fathers were right about one thing. Family businesses are powerful. They just didn't expect their children to be smarter than them. As police lights flashed in the driveway, I thought about karma, justice, and the price of freedom. Sometimes burning bridges lights the way forward. The morning after the engagement party explosion, I sat across from my mother at her favorite breakfast spot, trying to process how much had changed in 24 hours. Your father's being held without bail, she said, stirring her coffee. Roy, too. The evidence was too overwhelming for the judge to consider release. Have you seen the news? I pulled up the headlines on my phone. They're calling it the wedding fraud scandal. Stock prices are still falling. Good. She reached into her designer briefcase. Now, about that job offer. The cafe door chimed. Zariah rushed in, waving a stack of papers. Sorry I'm late, she said, sliding into our booth. But you need to see these. Your father's been busy from his cell. I scanned the documents, my stomach dropping. He's trying to transfer everything to a trust in the Cayman Islands. Trying and failing. Zariah grinned. The accounts are already frozen, but that's not the interesting part. Look at the beneficiary name. There, in black and white, was a name I didn't recognize. Who's Amanda Porter? I asked. My mother's face went white. That's impossible. Mom? She grabbed the paper, hands shaking. Amanda Porter was your father's first wife. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too hot. His what? It was before me, before you were born. She took a deep breath. He told me she died in a car accident, but these documents are dated last month, Zariah finished. She's very much alive, and according to these, she owns 30% of your father's original company. My phone buzzed. Carlos. Emergency. Father talking to prosecutors, wants to make a deal. It gets worse, Zariah continued. Amanda Porter has been receiving regular payments from both your father and Roy for years. Hush money. I need to make some calls. My mother stood abruptly, stepping outside with her phone. I turned to Zariah. Can you? Already on it. She pulled out her laptop, finding everything I can about Amanda Porter. My phone rang. Quentin. Sis, Dad's lawyer just called me to the prison. He's demanding to see you. Tell him no. He says he knows about Singapore, about what really happened to Mom's company 15 years ago. I looked out the window at my mother, who was pacing the sidewalk with her phone. I'll be there in an hour. The prison visiting room smelled of disinfectant and despair. My father sat across from me, orange jumpsuit replacing his usual designer suits. You look terrible, I said. Spare me the sympathy. His voice was hoarse. You need to stop digging. Some stories should stay buried. Like Amanda Porter, he flinched. Who told you that name? Does it matter? What I want to know is why you're trying to give her everything now. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Because she can destroy us all. Your mother, you, even that precious tech company you think I don't know about. Are you threatening me? From prison? I'm warning you. His eyes darted to the guard. Amanda knows things about Singapore, about what really happened to your mother's first company. My phone vibrated. Zariah had sent a photo, a newspaper clipping from 20 years ago, showing my father, Roy, and a striking woman with dark hair standing in front of a corporate logo. She was your business partner, I realized. Before Mom. She was everything before your mother. He slumped back. And now she wants everything again. Mr. Romero, the guard called. Time's up. I stood. Whatever game you're playing, Dad, it won't work. You taught me too well. Did I? He smiled grimly. Then you should know. In business, there's always someone with a longer game. Outside the prison, I called my mother. We need to talk about Amanda Porter, I said. And Singapore. Silence. Then, meet me at the office. Bring Zariah and Carlos. It's time you knew everything. As I drove to my mother's sleek, downtown office building, another text came through. Unknown number. Hello, Fiona. We should meet. I believe you have some questions about your father and your mother. Amanda. I pulled over, hands shaking as I typed. When and where? The response came immediately. Tonight. The place where it all started. Your father will know where. I called Carlos. I need you to find out everything you can about your father's business dealings from 20 years ago. Specifically, anything involving Singapore. Already did, he said. And Fiona, you're not going to like what I found. I stared at Amanda's text, remembering my father's warning about longer games. Tell me everything. The pieces were falling into place. But the picture they formed was darker than I'd imagined. This wasn't just about fraud anymore. This was about secrets that could destroy everything and everyone I thought I knew. The old Marina restaurant hadn't changed in 20 years. The same salt-worn deck, the same creaking boards, the same view of expensive yachts bobbing in their slips. According to Carlos's research, this was where my father, Roy, and Amanda had signed their first business agreement. You shouldn't have come alone, Zariah said through my earpiece. She and Carlos were watching from a car across the street. She'll only talk if I'm alone, I replied softly, scanning the dim restaurant. A woman sat at a corner table, her silver hair elegant against her black blazer. She raised her wine glass in greeting. Hello, Fiona. Amanda Porter's voice was exactly as I'd imagined. Smooth, cultured, dangerous. You look just like your mother did at your age. I sat down. You mean when she helped my father steal your company? Straight to the point. Amanda smiled. But you have it backward, dear. Your mother didn't help steal my company. She helped me steal your father's. My phone buzzed. Carlos. SEC just found new documents. Your mother's signature on offshore accounts from 1999. Singapore wasn't an accident, was it? I asked Amanda. My mother's company failing, her having to flee. It was a chess game 20 years in the making. Amanda poured me a glass of wine. Your father and Roy thought they were so clever, forcing me out, using your mother as their new front. They never realized she and I had our own arrangement. The regular payments, I said. They weren't hush money. They were my share of the profits. Your mother and I planned everything. The seemingly failed company in Singapore. A cover to build something bigger. Your father's current legal troubles. Perfect timing for us to reclaim what was always ours. My earpiece crackled. Zariah, Fiona, your mother just pulled up. She's heading inside. You used me, I realized. My fight with my father, exposing his fraud, it was all part of your plan. You used yourself, dear. We just nudged things along. The restaurant door opened. My mother walked in, followed by Cecilia Kelly. I see you've met my old friend, my mother said, sitting down. Sorry for the deception, sweetheart, but we needed your father to believe he was in control. All of you? I looked at Cecilia. You were part of this too. Roy was no better than your father, Cecilia said. They built their empire by destroying women like us. It was time they learned we could play their game better. My phone lit up with messages. Carlos, police just arrested my father again. New evidence of fraud from 1999. Zariah, your father's trying to make a deal. He's naming names. Quentin, Dad's lawyer quit, says the case is too big. What happens now? I asked. Amanda smiled. Now we rebuild. Legitimately this time. Your technology skills, your mother's connections, my experience. We could create something extraordinary. And my father will face justice, my mother said firmly. Real justice, not just for recent crimes, but for everything he's done over the past 20 years. The restaurant door burst open. Roy's lawyer stumbled in, face flushed. You, he pointed at Amanda. The FBI wants to talk to you about what? Amanda's voice turned ice cold. About how your client and Trevor Romero committed fraud, embezzled millions, or about how they threatened to ruin me if I didn't stay quiet. We have proof, my mother added, of everything. My phone buzzed one final time. Carlos, father confessed. It's over. Not quite, I said, standing. There's still the matter of trust. Trust? Amanda raised an eyebrow. You all used me as a pawn, just like my father did. You manipulated my anger, my desire for justice. We gave you the opportunity to free yourself, my mother interrupted. Everything you did, every choice you made, was yours. And now? I looked at each woman in turn. What's your real offer? Amanda pulled out a contract. Equal partnership, no secrets, no manipulation. Help us build something legitimate from the ashes of their corruption. Why should I trust you? Because, Cecilia said softly, we're offering you what they never did, real power, on your own terms. I thought about my father in his prison cell, still trying to manipulate events, about Roy's confession, about 20 years of lies and revenge and justice. One condition, I said. Quentin gets a fair share too. He's as much a victim as anyone. My mother smiled. Already done. The paperwork's being drawn up. Then I'm in. I picked up my wine glass. To new beginnings. To karma, Amanda corrected, raising her glass. To justice, Cecilia added. My mother looked at me proudly. To the next generation doing better than we did. Outside, the sun was setting over the marina, painting the water gold. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about rebuilding something stronger from the ruins. The courtroom fell silent as my father stood for sentencing. Gone was his expensive suit, replaced by prison orange. Gone was his commanding presence, replaced by a defeated slump in his shoulders. Trevor Romero, the judge began. This court finds you guilty of all charges. Given the extensive nature of your crimes and your lack of remorse, I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison. I felt my mother squeeze my hand as the judge continued listing penalties and fines. Beside us, Quentin wiped his eyes. You may address the court before being remanded, the judge said. My father turned, his eyes finding mine. Everything I did was for my family. No, I stood up. Everything you did was because you couldn't stand the idea of women being more successful than you. Mom, Amanda, even me. You tried to control us all. Order, the judge warned. But I continued. You taught me that power was everything, that winning meant making others lose. But you were wrong. The bailiff stepped forward, but the judge waved him back. You wanted me to be just like you, I said. Congratulations, Dad. I learned how to take everything from someone. The difference is, I'm using that power to build something better. As they led him away, my phone buzzed. Carlos, board meeting in an hour. The merger paperwork is ready. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Ms. Romero, what's next for the company? First, I smiled at the cameras. We're announcing a partnership between Porter International, Kelly Technologies, and my mother's Singapore firm. But more importantly, we're launching a foundation to support women entrepreneurs affected by corporate fraud and the stolen funds being returned to their rightful owners, my mother answered, with interest. Back at the office, I found Zariah reviewing contracts in the boardroom. Through the glass walls, I could see Amanda and Cecilia talking with investors. Ready for this? Zariah asked, handing me a pen. Almost. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd memorized weeks ago. Hello. My father's voice was rough. The deal's done, I said. The companies are merging under new management. You should know, we're keeping the Romero name. Why? To remind everyone that legacy isn't about control. It's about growth, about doing better than those who came before us. You really are my daughter. No, I said firmly. I'm my own person. That's what you never understood. I hung up as Carlos entered with Quentin. The press release is ready, Carlos said, and Dad signed over his remaining shares. Good. I looked at my brother. Ready to learn the legitimate side of business. Quentin straightened his tie, ready to do it right this time. The boardroom filled with our new team. My mother and Amanda sat together. Their past rivalry transformed into a powerful alliance. Cecilia took her place as head of international relations. Carlos, now our chief innovation officer, pulled up the presentation. Before we start, I addressed the room. I want to be clear, this isn't about revenge anymore. It's about responsibility, about creating something meaningful from the ashes of corruption. Here's to the next chapter. Amanda raised her water glass. To karma coming full circle, Cecilia added. My mother stood. To my daughter, who reminded us that true power isn't about domination. It's about transformation. As we signed the final papers, my phone lit up with a news alert. Breaking. Roy Kelly pleads guilty. Agrees to testify against former business partners. Looks like karma's not done yet, Carlos murmured. I thought about my father in his cell, Roy facing his own judgment, and the empire they'd built on lies. Then I looked at the women around me. Strong, brilliant, unafraid, and the men who understood that real success doesn't require crushing others. The paperwork's complete, Zariah announced. It's official. I stood at the boardroom window, watching the city skyline. Somewhere out there, another daughter was facing her own battle for independence. Another woman was being told to know her place. Send out the press release, I told Carlos, and add this quote, true legacy isn't inherited, it's built, and we're just getting started. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from an unknown number. Your father asked me to warn you, said you're making a mistake. His lawyer, I typed back. Tell him thanks for the lessons, especially the one about karma. Looking around the boardroom at my new family, not bound by blood, but by choice and principle, I finally understood. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something so magnificent that their destruction becomes irrelevant. Let's begin, I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. We have work to do,